Hello, statistics students. Here is the main problem, or the main idea from chapter 16. We want to be able to create a one sample confidence interval for proportions. So let's take a look at this problem. A polling agency showed the following two statements to a random sample of 1,048 adults in the United States. The environment statement: the protection of the environment should be given priority over economic growth. The economy statement: the economic growth should be given priority over the protection of the environment. The order in which the statements were shown was randomly selected for each person in the sample. Remember, we always want to randomize. After reading the statements, each person was asked to choose the statement that was most consistent with his or her opinion. The results are shown in the table. So 58% agreed with the environment statement, 37% agreed with the economy statement, and 5% had no preference. So assuming the conditions for inference have been met, construct a 95% confidence interval for the proportion of all adults in the United States who would choose the economy statement. So for the economy statement, I'm going to highlight this in green, we know that there are 37% liked that statement. So the first thing we might need to do is take 37%, or 0.37, times 1,048 in order to figure out how many people preferred that sentence. So when we do that on our calculator, we get 387.76. Now, since we can't have 0.76 of a person, I'm going to round. So 388. If I got 387.2, I would probably round down, or I would round down. So for the confidence interval, it's p hat plus or minus the critical value, z star, square root p hat, 1 minus p hat, over n. And for this particular problem, we want a 95% confidence interval. So my p hat is 0.37 plus or minus the critical value for 95% is 1.96, square root 0.37, 1 minus 0.37, and we're going to divide by the sample size, which was 1,048. Doing that on my calculator, I'm going to go Stat, move over to Test, and I'm going to scroll down to letter A. And for one proportion confidence interval, we're going to type 388, 1,048, confidence level 0.95, and then I'm going to move down to Calculate and press Enter. Now notice that p hat is slightly different than 0.37 due to rounding error, and I'll talk about that in a second. So the confidence interval the calculator gives me is 0.34099 and then 0.39946. Now, if you wrote 0.37002, I would accept that. And then the second thing I want us to be able to do is write it with the margin of error. So 0.37 plus or minus, and we want to be able to calculate this margin of error. So in order to calculate the margin of error, we're going to take 0.37 minus 0.34099, or we can take 0.39946 and subtract 0.37. When I do the calculation for the top one, I get 0.02901, and for the second one, 0.02946. And the reason these are slightly different is because I rounded the 0.37. Remember, the true p hat is 388 over 1,048, which is about 0.3702. So because I rounded, these two margins of errors are slightly off, but I will accept either one. it doesn't matter, they're relatively close. Notice they're the same to 3 decimal places. So 0.029, and I'll just use the top one. So then what does this mean? This means I am 95% confident the true proportion of U.S. adults that preferred the economy statement is between, let me write that down a little neater, is between 0.34099 and 0.39946.